many drivers, the challenges when it comes to short track racing comes from some of the bumping and banging, some of the tight confines drivers can face, and as well as the need to be patient. Tonight, all those factors and more we put to the test for the second race of Season 6 for the Bootleg Racing League's Grand National Series here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Good evening, everyone. I'm Justin Prince. Alongside me the booth tonight is Devin Henry. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. These drivers are getting ready to tackle Oxford Plains Speedway tonight, and we'll see how things fare out tonight. But first things first, let's take a look at our GSRC track guide to learn more about this very historic facility.
When you think of the asphalt bull rings that are up and down the eastern seaboard, it's hard not to think about Oxford Plains. This 3/8 mile track is the epitome of that. Although it's gone through several iterations, the winners list is just as marquee, thanks in large part to its biggest race at one point being a sort of crossover event with NASCAR's second-tier series and its smaller northeastern brother. But the likes of Ricky Craven, Kevin Harvick, Jeff Bodine, Kyle Busch, and even Alabama gang member Bobby Allison have claimed wins here. When you look at Oxford Plains from the top down, it looks like it has straights. Anyone that has driven here at anything faster than a Legends car or street stock might disagree with you. You are turning almost the entire lap here. Banking is best described as shallow, so that bump and run is sometimes one of the only ways to get around someone here. But the track is at least wide, and if you do get bumped out in the curves, you are likely to miss a wall, so get it gathered up and get back on the track. Nowadays, the crown jewel of Oxford Plains is still the Oxford 250, a super late model race in late August that draws some big names. You'll find other smaller super late model races as well scattered throughout the year. Also, some late model touring series come through here, and you'll find a few modified touring events as well. But Oxford Plains' bread and butter is the weekly complement of street stocks and late models. Will we see some bump and run action today at Oxford? Most likely. Enjoy the race here on GSRC.
Let's look at your GSRC track guide for Oxford Plains Speedway. Now let's bring my broadcast partner for tonight, Devin Henry, as this is going to be one of the most difficult races so far this season. In fact, potentially on the entire calendar because of how tight these confines are here for these Grand National Series machines.
Oh, absolutely. This 3/8 mile track, one of the more difficult and especially one of the most unique tracks on the iRacing platform, to the extent where we usually call tracks like this an oval. You can see right here, it's really not that much of an oval. It is really a circle, to be honest. It feels like you never really stop turning the wheel, and depending on how tight you get on exit later in the race, you might just be having that wheel turn to the left the entire race. It makes for some very interesting racing when you only have 9 degrees of banking and you're trying to run side by side, not hit the curb on the inside and not hit the inverted banking on the straightaways, and you know, just every here, every there. Another challenge you meet here at Oxford Plains.
To put this into perspective, some of the drivers describing this place as a place with zero time to relax. And that may be one of the best ways to emphasize what could be a very tight race for today. Let's take a look at your Drivers' Championship after the first race of the season. It was James Lowe taking the checker flag last week. That was just prior to the Easter break, I should say. But Jason Menda, Austin Belke, Kurt Smith, and Jeffrey Harden rounding out your top 5. The points start off at 40 for your race winner, then go down 1 point apiece throughout the campaign. So momentum going to be important to try and carry forward after what was an entertaining race to start off the season at Nashville Fairgrounds. Now, when it comes to this race, though, let's take a look at our details as we get ready for race number 2 of the season.
Yeah, race 2 of the season. If you're just joining us here with the Bootleg Racing League, every single race is 100 laps, and you do not get an opportunity to change out your tires. So the tires that you begin the race on the green flag with, you have to take them all the way to the checkered flag, and at a track like Oxford, where you're essentially turning the entire way around, tire management becomes a big deal. And also, it's very easy to get caught up in someone else's incident or go off of one of those dirt ramps. If you do, you only get one fast repair, so you only get to go sky high once, and no qualifying either. Your grid is set by last week's finishers. The top 8 from last week get inverted So the guys who win last week, they're starting mid-pack here tonight.
Yeah, I don't think those drivers want to go off where the light post mountains are for tonight and launch up into the sky if they want to win this race. Let's put it that way. As practice is underway, drivers are currently battling on iRacing Day, May 15, 2021, and in sim time just past 6:30 p.m. Track conditions 79 degrees Fahrenheit, air temp 85 degrees, the track temp with fairly windy skies at northwest to the west at 7 miles an hour. Speaking of miles an hour here, for these drivers in practice, you can see the times led by James Lowe, J.R. Shepard, and Justin Morton. They're reaching maybe at the very max 92 miles an hour at the end of the straightaways before they have to go right back to the brakes.
And the throttle, because of that, gets really touchy. On exit, you want to get on the gas because, again, like you mentioned, Justin, triple digits is difficult here because of how short the quote-unquote straightaways are here at Oxford Plains. And then you want to get on that gas, and the rear tires will just light up and whip you around. You have to slow down on exit because even on fresh tires, it is so easy to overshoot these corners, Justin. And a great shot here, basically almost on the splitter of one of these cars. You see that concrete curbing on the very bottom side of the racetrack. This isn't like your old EA Sports NASCAR video games. Driving over that, it's not like nothing happens. That will grab your left front tire, it will pull the front end into the infield, and you will get sideways. So you need to be extremely careful driving this inside lane and not get yourself hooked on that curb on the bottom.
Still 10 minutes to go until drivers roll their way towards the starting grid for tonight's action. There's something to note though, and that's momentum for Donnie Moore. He's 7th currently in practice, yes, but he's won both the events coming into tonight's action with especially a dominating victory in the Modified Series prior to the Grand National Series.
And we know that Donnie loves this track. I don't know if I love the number placement, but I know that he would certainly love to be in victory lane. Right now, he's actually the points leader as well through 2 races in the Street Stock Series and also the Tour Modified Series. And a victory tonight could help him get into playoff contention. As we know, not the usuals who are the top 3 best numbers. For the most part, they're not racing this season, so a chance for Donnie Moore to go out and become the 6th different winner in Grand National Series history at a track that a lot of drivers might not have a lot of history at, but Donnie Moore loves to get around.
Keep in mind that the driver second on the board in practice, J.R. Shepard, did not take part in last week's season opening festivities in the 98 machine, so now we'll see him return back to competition, finished 4th in the modified race, in fact, after having to start from the rear of the field in that respective situation. It's going to be intriguing to see how J.R. Shepard does this season. He mentioned potentially missing a few races. Now, we'll see the challenges of him trying to claw his way through the standings, now already a race down with 0 points.
And he just turns into a trophy hunter at that point if he won't be available to fight for the championship. We saw a couple seasons ago, the only season where J.R. Shepard did not win the title, won by Kenny Kibbe. Shepard still had an outrageous amount of wins compared to anybody else in the series. We know that he is, week in and week out, the guy that you need to beat if you want to win a race. And when you come to a race like Oxford, a track that not a lot of people have that experience at, JR becomes a guy that you follow, try to learn how to race here, and then you got to try to hunt him down in the middle of the race. But the biggest part about J.R. Shepard not being at every race is the fact that since last week he wasn't here, he has to start dead last tonight, so he has to go through everybody to get to the front.
Looking with Todd Liston, and yes, you can see the camera with how much wheel he's putting in, more than 45% angle throughout the corners here for tonight. He was one of the drivers that showed some decent speed at Nashville before some bad luck settled in for the 87 machine.
And you know Todd likes to rip it. He likes to get into the corners hot. He likes to drive them in hard, and this is a track where you might not get rewarded, but if you can make some moves early on fresher or colder tires, it pays dividends later on. And while we're on board here with Todd, watch as he goes here on the front straightaway, and look at the banking on the front straight. So unique. You're essentially inverted here. They're actually pointed the wrong direction on the straightaways. And later on in the race, Justin, when you're getting tight on corner exit, you're going to want to compensate by getting on the gas sooner. And that wall is so far away from the driving line. It just invites you, hey, come on over here. There's all of this room here that you can kind of just play with, and it's okay if you drive too far. And then you get into that negative banking, and it will suck you in towards the wall, and it is difficult to climb back up over that banking before you have to hit the next corner.
I have to ask, when this comes down to this race for tonight, how difficult do you feel it's going to be to pass? Because it seems the drivers at least are practicing those maneuvers right now, but it's also to where you can't necessarily just stuff it into the bottom line and hope it sticks.
Exactly, and it is a bottom feeder track, and I have watched a lot of races here. I've participated in a lot of races at Oxford, Justin, but they usually are multi-class, and there's usually like 1 or 2 cars that finish on the lead lap. We're hoping to avoid both tonight. This is a more competitive race here at Oxford, not a demo derby that you find in the hosted sessions all the time. And that's what intrigues me the most, because even in the demo derbies, the inside line is where you want to be, whether that's to move someone out of the way, whether that's to play defense. It's hard to drive on the outside and play defense either. So this is a track where maybe you need to mix up your line. We see guys find a way to diamond the corners at certain tracks. Is this one of those tracks that you get enough laps on, and on 60 lap old tires, being on the inside all the way around the corner isn't the fastest way around anymore? And I think we're going to see guys experiment with that, and the guys who do that successfully are the guys who will end up out front.
It's going to be very intriguing, and keep in mind, one of the drivers is in the bottom half of the board. He's talked about how he doesn't focus on the hot run pace, hot lap pace, I should say. Austin Belke came away with an impressive 3rd place finish in the opening round of the season.
Yeah, and Austin, a guy who's just going to go out here and let's run race pace for a while. Because at the end of the day, practice doesn't set the qualifying grid, right? So just because J.R. Shepard is top of the board right now, well, guess what? He's still going to have to start from the back. It doesn't matter. So a lot of these guys have figured out when we are in practice, let's just not worry about what we're doing. Let's just get into race pace. Let's not worry about running as fast as possible, because if you're running these lap times, lap number 1, you're going to start burning off your tires. And speaking of a guy like Todd Liston, who will have our onboard camera today, he came home on the podium earlier today in the Street Stock Series. And another guy who's looking for his 3rd top 5 of the day is Jason Menda. So those are a couple of guys who you need to watch out for tonight, along with Donnie Moore. Guys who don't necessarily finish on the podium, race in and race out. A great opportunity for these guys to test this track with the Grand National cars, a combo that you really don't see very often.
I was about to say, a couple different of those drivers indeed looking to carry the momentum forward for tonight. Looking to try and gain some momentum, though, are drivers like Justin Morden, who showed early speed again at Nashville, but fell off lane and had some trouble. Perspectives as well in some of the races. We'll see how Justin Morden does, for example, tonight. 4th on the board at the moment.
And I'm not sure how Justin will do here tonight. We know that he loves to rip these cars around. I typically say he's the guy who has the wheel pointed to the right more than anybody else. And I don't know if that's just dirt car experience or what, since we do see him occasionally on Friday nights in the Dirt Street Stock Series. But when you come to a track with a single-digit banking, there's not a lot of help. 1, if you get the car sideways, and 2, just turning the car on corner entry. Maybe this is a track where you can actually use the brakes and your brake bias, because this is a fixed setup series, to help turn the car and not waste up that right front. And I'm curious to see, is this a track that Justin Moore will struggle at, or a track that he will thrive at in these big heavy stock cars?
Yeah, that's going to be very vital, is that tire wear for tonight. Keep in mind, recap your times at the moment. 15.9s at the top of the board from Shepard and Lowe. Donnie Moore is 16 flat in 3rd. Justin Moore and Jason Menda tied for 4th. Ruben Altisse rounding out the top 5 overall, 6 overall on the board with 16.065.
Todd's hydrating. Todd is hydrating in the middle while he's turning. I can't do that.
I was about to say, it's been impressive to see him be able to wheel this racetrack when we've taken a look with him so far. I'm very glad to have him for this onboard camera for tonight. Whenever he's gone one-handed into these corners, despite how much wheel he's having to put in to make sure he makes the corner.
I mean, he's like 45 degrees down the straightaways. And again, that's because these straightaways aren't really straight, and the banking is almost negative banking even on the inner part of the driving line on the straightaways. So yeah, look how the wheel never turns. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Todd's entire body start to angle to the left a little more as we go throughout the day. I know I certainly do when you hit a track like this.
Funnily enough, it was Jeffrey Harden who said prior to tonight's race, the driver currently scored 9th in the practice charts, that he actually leans left while he's driving, and it's something he feels he's going to have to improve on, because he feels that could actually cost him time to just already immediately be tilted sideways the entire way around the racetrack in the seat.
And 100 laps at a 3/8 mile, that's a long 100 laps. It does get uncomfortable. Honestly, how it works is you get crooked like that, and you don't really notice it until you get a caution. You're like, my back hurts. You just kind of straighten back up, and you go back green, and you start tilting again a little bit, and that's just kind of how it works at a track like this. It's just, it's natural with your sensory input that you're turning the wheel left, you're looking left, and you start kind of fading left as well, and can be a little uncomfortable sometimes as well.
Going to be very important for posture to also be thought about indeed when it comes to the amount of wheel inputs for these drivers. But final practice is wrapping up again. Your top 5, J.R. Shepard with a 15.910, followed by James Lowe's 15.947, Justin Morden, Donnie Moore, Jason Menda, all in the 16 flats. Rounded out the top 5 for final practice. But the drivers have wrapped up practice, which means it's time to roll our way towards your starting grid for tonight's action from Oxford Plains Speedway. Who's going to take home the checker flag? We're about to find out here for the Grand National Series, where it will be Joe Sagawa. We'll be able to bring them to the green flag for tonight's racing action. He'll get that inside line, very valuable early on, against Ruben Altis on the front row. Jeffrey Harden will start in third alongside Kurt Smith. Austin Belke coming off a lot of momentum from Nashville starts in 5th, with Jason Menda in 6th. The last driver in the inversion spots based on attendance is 7th. That's James Lowe, who took the checker flag last round, with Todd Liston starting in 8th. Lowell Jewell will change things up paint scheme-wise in a Chevrolet and the DeWalt look for tonight. Throwing back to Matt Kenseth with Donnie Moore rounding out your top 10 tonight, Devin.
Everyone back here did not race last week. J.R. Shepard, Justin Morden, Brian Dean, and Adam Shane, they round out your 14-car field in what's going to be a difficult race here at Oxford Plains Speedway.
One quick pace lap, your keys to victory for tonight.
Be careful, don't touch those curbs on the bottom. Yes, they will help the car turn, but often a little bit too much. Be careful with those curbs on the bottom. And second, go where everyone else isn't. You can't pass someone unless you give them a chrome horn. If you're just sitting around, it looks like someone's already having issues here on pit road.
That's Brian Dean, who was scheduled to start in 13th position, having troubles. He'll try and catch the field as the rest of the pack is all set to go. Green flag is out. We're underway from Oxford Plains. Joe Sagawa can't get clear on the exit of turn 2 quite yet. Ruben Altis trying to squeeze. Here comes Harden, though, now for the battle for second. 11 can't find a hole, while a majority of the other drivers still fight side by side after the end of the first lap.
Harden with some tremendous corner exit speed, and I'm very interested in how these cars will evolve throughout the 100-lap run. Again, I haven't seen very many competitive non-demolition derby races at Oxford, so it'll be intriguing to see how these cars change throughout the race, what works now, and what may be detrimental moving forward.
Of course, a lot of history when it comes to this facility is talked about with the GSRC track guide. Many big names have won here in the Oxford 250 over the years, like Bob Presley, like Jeff Bodine, like Chuck Bone, like Kevin Harvick, like Kyle Busch in 2011. These drivers looking to add their names to victory lane as Harden gets the fastest lap so far in the battle for second. Belke able to move up to 3rd position, while James Lowe going to try and take away 4th spot.
Of course, last week at Nashville, James Lowe was the only driver in the race with a prior win in the Bootleg Racing League Grand National Series. He had to start dead last because he didn't race in the season finale last season. He goes out, he wins the race. Everyone had an opportunity to go out and be a brand new winner in Bootleg's Grand National Series, and the 99 upset them all. An opportunity today. In this race, there's only 2 former winners in the field. Can they hold off J.R. Shepard and James Lowe? Shepard's already up to P7.
Able to complete the pass, by the way, for forfeits. Altice is the only driver on the top line inside the top 9 positions at the moment. Can't find that hole quite yet as Shepard now to the inside of the 11 machine as we look for the chopper cam. That is the boss man, Lowell Jewell, who is able to clear on by Justin Morton, also trying to follow suit. Then there is a hole before Donnie Moore. That might be able to be filled up here. Altice again outside front row, showing the cost of losing the bottom as the boss man has also just lost the bottom.
Yeah, and this lane change is not at all by choice. Ruben Altice has lost 6 positions since the green flag. He will lose a 7th here to Donnie Moore coming through the pack. And everyone trying to stay one by one. Lowell Jewell will find a home behind Justin Morton. Altice still can't find a way to get into the racing line, and now forcing things up front to the 99 of James Lowe to the inside of Austin Belkey. And that might be what all these drivers have to do moving forward. Lowe was very aggressive down the front straightaway to stick his nose under the 24, and now the Jeff Gordon throwback is in no man's land.
Able to come out right in front of J.R. Shepard from that top line, so able to get back into a rhythm. See how Shepard responds here. Remember, Shepard works with Austin Belkey. It's talked about during post-race coverage at that Nashville round to open up the season, but keep in mind, we talked about how you can't just necessarily shove it on in. That's what the drivers have done so far, it seems. If you want to move forward, seems the name of the game, at least for some of these competitors. Be aggressive if you want to try and find your way towards the back bumper of Joe Sagawa.
Yeah, we haven't had any contact, no bumping runs yet, but forcing the nose inside. And at that point, you have to give a little bit of respect to the guy on the inside. And there, Harden had that inside lane, but didn't have the momentum. So Joe Sagala just kept on running his racing line. I'm still really liking the corner exit speed at that black number 44, though. He'll have time to pounce, but 100 laps, guys, it's all about patience, not just because you don't want to rough up too many guys, but you really don't want to rough up that right front tire and have it blow out on you later on in the race.
That's a great point, especially with how the tire work can come into play. By the way, the boss man, Lowell Jewell, got pushed up to the top line after Jason Menda carried too much speed coming off of turn 2 last time by. Lowell Jewell has now been shuffled to a battle for 10th position. You can see the damage on the left side. Keep in mind, this is iRacing's old damage model on these machines. They take a lot of wrinkles to the side of the cars as Todd Liston now tries to wheel his way on by.
Look at the focus in his eyes. I mean, he is absolutely glued in right now and really working the wheel as well. Maybe pushing it a little bit hard on corner exit. You really want to stay on the rear bumper of the car in front of you, because the second somebody makes a mistake in front of you, you just pounce. There can't be a second thought. If you don't get to the inside, someone else will, and you will lose those positions instead.
Up towards the front, things are getting a little bit feisty towards the back bumper of Jeffrey Harden as James Lowe thought about a couple little peaks here and there a couple of times. You can see the little bit of speed lost by Harden coming off the corners right now compared to Joe Sagawa. James Lowe just can't get the run right underneath the 44 machine quite yet.
And a lot of Lowe's victories in the Bootleg Racing League Grand National Series have come from having that patience, knowing when to make the move, knowing when to wait. And you can see the 99 not necessarily forcing it right there, but saying, you know, if you're going to leave this open, I'm just going to kind of creep in here and just kind of take up the space, but not forcing anything yet, not forcing his car to overwork itself early on, because we still have 80 laps to go, a lot of racing left. You don't want to overuse your stuff so early on in the day.
Yeah, the fall off, keep in mind, as well, is already dropped by 3/10. The pace from the start of the race. Drivers turn 16 2s and 3s. We're turning 16 6s and 7s throughout this entire pack. All single file for the most part along that bottom rumble strip. Bit of contact, no changes. That caution is out. Adam Shane ends up also getting hit by Kurt Smith along the way. We're under caution for the first time today after contact between that 65 machine and Todd Liston. as Liston tried to go to the bottom.
And this is where patience starts to run out, I think. You'll see the black number 65, that's Shane. The black and yellow number 87, that's Todd Liston. They'll make contact here going into turn number 3. The 87 had that car really rotated. Might see maybe another angle of that, see how quickly that gap closed, and I don't really know. I thought at first Shane might have rolled down there, but I think that he was just on the brakes. There's nowhere for the 6 to go, so supplemental damage there. Really no one's fault there on that last contact. So we'll watch here from the helicopter cam. Liston really had a lot more speed there. That's a tough one there. Just two guys really taking different entries into the corner.
It looked like he had the opportunity, Liston did, to dive to the inside. Just had a lot more space to dive to the left side too in that sequence. But now we're under caution for the first time. And now it gets intriguing how this restart has played out, because we've seen how quickly that top line shuffled drivers all the way to the back. Rubenalti shuffled to 9th position, for example. Lowell Jewell when he lost the bottom, shuffled to 12th. Kurt Smith when he lost the bottom, shuffled to 14th. It seems like we're going to have many aggressive moves, it seems, on these restarts if you want to try and get yourself single filed out, it seems.
It's going to be a ridiculous battle for real estate. Everyone wants to get to the inside, because otherwise you might get sucked into the black hole and never return from the race, right? So everyone will be fighting here to get to that inside lane, but you have to do it cleanly like everyone did at the initial start to this race.
One go signal is on the iRacing pace car. That iRacing sedan will make its way to the pit lane as Joe Segala, Jeffrey Harden in control of the field. Green flag is out. And what a launch for James Lowe from the second row, already battling side by side for second. Harden trying to defend, but Lowe with the great run to the bottom of the racetrack as Harden sends it up top.
Harden really the only driver who we have seen really fight back on the outside. Everyone else has kind of had to settle for whatever happens below them, but that 44 is still able to make a little bit of headway as all the other drivers in the outside lane behind him have already lost about a pair of positions now. And that also allows the 98 of J.R. Shepard to move into 4th. And how about the 26 of Donnie Moore? He's into the top 5 now.
Slowly but surely and quietly has been taking advantage of some of the other drivers on the lines as Harden will find a hole in 4th position, letting behind J.R. Shepard. It's the matter of seeing how Donnie Moore tries to counteract and attack as Shepard all over the back bumper in front of them of James Lowe, trying to dart his way to the inside, couldn't get the run.
And Justin Morton worked so hard earlier in the race, started in 12th, made up about 4 to 6 positions, and now stuck in the outside. He slid back into P9 and still has yet to find a home contact here between Donnie Moore and Harden. No caution yet until Belkey comes in and gets the quarter panel. Multiple cars are going to have a lot of damage here.
And the caution flag is out as Justin Morton and several others collided on in. Bring out our second caution flag of the race, and cautions breed cautions here at Oxford Plains. Let's take a look at the replay as several drivers had struggled with looseness, and it seemed, as you talked about, Donnie Moore gave some help to Jeffrey Harden in turn 1.
Again, it's a cap fight to get to the inside here. Let's see how this goes down. Yeah, Donnie showing his intentions very quickly that he wanted the inside, and even minimal contact like that sends them around. The 24th, nowhere to go. Watch the 9 on the next replay, because there might be some suspension damage. Justin Morton going from bad to worse. On board here with the 24. Watch how quick this happens.
Yeah, it just strips down the racetrack. Nowhere for Austin Belkey to go. Justin Morton hits the outside retaining wall down the back straightaway. As well, getting collected in that was Adam Shane and Todd Liston, several more in the checkup effect. And how big overall do you feel that damage can be here at this racetrack? Because this is a track which has an interesting pit lane, keep in mind, with those humps and the infield, where, should be worth noting, Harden nearly smacked into the inside pit wall, trying to find the outside pit box and find his pit stall.
Yeah, this is a track where if you use your fast repair, you wish you could tow, but there's not enough time, because if there's too many cars, you have, first of all, no idea where your pit stall is, because there's a giant M behind them as well. But just getting onto pit road, there's really no clear entry besides the yellow cone, because how everything is asphalt here. So, yeah, you don't want to have to go on pit road. If you do, you got to go quick because it's so easy to lose a lap here.
Look at the bright side. At least we're not racing that little track on the back straightaway as well. It'd be interesting to see how these drivers would maneuver that to get to the pit to make their way around. Green flag is out, backing away. Joe Segal with an air good launch. James Lowe wants to try and get the high line to work, but J.R. Shepard is already to the inside in the battle for second position as the caution quickly is out of the back of the field. It's Adam Shane again getting collected, and this time it's from help from the boss man. Off of turn 2 for the 65 in another incident.
Goodness gracious, Shane is going, is it lap like what, 85 now? Long race for the 65. You'll see him in the black machine there, in the black and yellow machine of Lil Jewel there. Just had a little bit more speed on exit, and again, minimal contact there. Spins these ARCA Menard Series machines right around. They do not like any sort of touching anywhere on these automobiles as Kurt Smith takes the trip down pit road.
And now it's going to be where we see how these restarts play out now with the aggressiveness starting to pick up. Joe Segawa, keep in mind, has led every single lap so far. He's done a solid job keeping that first position.
And I've really liked his pace too, not getting too far out in front of the field and abusing that right front tire with his speed. Very smart restarts as well. And just, he's been lucky too because no one in that second position has forced the issue yet. All it takes is someone forcing the issue and just one slight lapse in judgment for everything to go wrong. And thus far, everything that could go right has gone right. Doesn't necessarily mean that he's in the best situation, but it does mean that he's played the race as smart as he could so far.
What do you do, though, if you're James Lowe, who was starting in the bottom for all these restarts, now is up on the top line and now has to essentially scratch and claw just to get to that bottom?
Again, it's a cat fight because you know J.R. Shepard isn't just going to let you in, right? JR would love to be in P2, but now you have Donnie Moore behind you, so maybe you might get a little bit of help on this restart, someone close behind him on the outside lane. We'll see.
We'll have to see. Indeed. As the green flag waves, back underway, and a bit of tire spin, in fact, for Joe Segawa. James Lowe sends it to the outside. Can he get clear for the race lead and make one of the first passes of the day on the high side? He does. James Lowe to the race lead.
That checked up Segal and also checked up the inside lane, and the 99 gets almost half a car length down the straightaway. Altice banging doors with Donnie Moore, able to get back on track without damage, but that will bring the 23 of Brian Dean. He's starting the back as well. He's up to 5th.
Keep in mind that several drivers in practice ended up getting loose as the tires started to wear on these machines, especially with the track conditions. Keep in mind the track has cooled down since practice as Joe Segawa watches as the intensity picks up underneath him. The 83 degrees your track tempers about 105 degrees potentially.
And I live in Arizona, and everyone in Arizona knows that like top of the line temperature can be like a 125 degrees. So we still have much larger to go on the tempers temperature as well. So we'll see how that goes. We're not even halfway yet, but James Lowe leading this thing. Now it's J.R. Shepard's decision. Do I go now, or I guess I'll stop for a caution because Austin Belkey with some troubles in 1 and 2.
And this time it's help from Jeffrey Harden.
And more, Justin Morton. Ooh, Lil Jewel almost went for a huge jump.
Once again, the caution flag is for Austin Belkey getting spun around with contact for Jeffrey Harden. You're going to have to explain what happened after, as keep in mind that Lil Jewel and Justin Morton had to make contact as well under the caution flag.
Little bit of contact there. Again, minimal. But, so Lil Jewel goes for a spin here. And let's watch Joel into turn 1-2 as well here, because this was kind of a weird sequence. Once they both get all straightened out, Justin Morton's in the red and white number 9. Into turn 1, Lil Jewel, I don't know if that's iRacing saying past the 9 or what there, but that was a very strange sequence after the caution.
Yeah, keep in mind that once the caution flag waves, if you maintain speed, the field is frozen. If you end up falling below a specific speed, usually around pace speed or lower, it does essentially say you have to give up the positions. And in that case, Lil Jewel going to keep the position since he kept the speed up, even though Justin Morton got collected in that situation. But either way, we're approaching halfway, and it's James Lowe in the race lead, J.R. Shepard in second. An impressive start to this race overall for Lowe, who started in 7th, made his way quickly throughout the field, made his way inside the top 3 within the first 30 laps, and then made the first pass to the outside. Now is your control car as a result.
And this could be the revenge of Joe Segala getting the start on the inside here. Can he get around J.R. Shepard and get back to P2?
We'll have to see. Joe Segala was quickly under attack after losing that race lead. Donnie Moore, keep in mind, is in 4th position as well. The cleanest car inside the top 6 outside of your few leaders is Brian Dean, who's quietly in 5th. Green, green, green. Back on her way, J.R. Shepard trying to swing on the outside, quickly moves to the bottom. Donnie Moore trying to keep the momentum up, meanwhile side by side with the 81 as Dean also joins the fight with Jason Menda.
And a phenomenal launch by both competitors on the front row. They are gone from the rest of the field. And Donnie Moore, again, just stuck in that outside lane with nowhere to go and under attack now from Jason Menda, who's looking for another top 5 today at Oxford.
And actually clipped a little bit of that curbing, nearly pushed up into the 26 machine. Still, Moore forced to swing it on that high line. Also stuck on the top line is the boss man, Lil Jewel, in 9th position. Has a bit of a lockup that time, Donnie Moore. I think he locked up the left front, trying to slow it on down there as Altice now attacks him.
Bad to worse for Donnie Moore. Made all that room up. Got all that free real estate and now falling back. And now Lil Jewel with issues on the back straightaway. Doesn't come to a stop though, didn't go sideways, so we stay green just past halfway. And the battle up front starting to heat up here, Justin, between Lowe and Shepard.
The boss man, Lil Jewel, now to the pit lane as a result after that incident. Avoid contact, but James Lowe trying to hold off J.R. Shepard. Shepard a +9 of the race after not taking part in Nashville's festivities. It's also been impressive to see what Shepard has done so far tonight, but as you can see, it can be difficult to build up that run to pass here for this race lead.
And that's where you just have to wait, and it all depends on driver style, right? Do you decide I need to stay on the rear bumper and pounce at even the slightest opportunity, or do you say this time by it's 44 laps to go, do I hang back here and try to save more tires than James Lowe and hang out? And it's that balance there in driver style, because obviously these two have a pace godly compared to everyone else in the field as they've extended it to 2.5 seconds now. So it looks like J.R. Shepard might not be all that patient. They're giving a bump.
Try to use the bump and run as James Lowe holds on. They regroup though. Shepard went all the way to the curbing trying to bump him there. Keep in mind that the lead is now more than 3 seconds for these two. That's how dominant their pace is compared to the rest of the pack.
Segala just got stuck on the outside out of 3rd. That moves Brian Dean onto the podium, and the 81 still can't find a home in the inside lane.
So Joe Segala, after such a strong first half of the race, going backwards now. After losing that bottom line several times. Adam Shane, by the way, who's involved in several incidents, now up to 6th position. Despite all the damage, Justin Morton up to 7th now as a result of the choo-choo train.
How remarkable is that for Adam Shane? He has been in a plethora of incidents and has came back every single time and is looming outside the top 5. What a comeback drive for him that he hopes to not have to do again, because there's still 40 to go.
Surprised how well he's been doing despite all that damage on, well, everywhere on that race car. As Ruben Altice, you can see up in front of him trying to find a way around Menda. By the way, with 38 to go, the times have started to plateau between your top 2 and the rest of the pack, but the damage is done. 3.6 seconds now the gap. Shepard clips the curbing. He was all over the back bumper of the 99 trying to find a run.
And you see nearly a car length gap down the back straightaway. Makes almost all of that back up in 3 and 4. I think that 98 has the better car right now. maybe just trying to scare the 99 and moving up the track just a little bit, because he is certainly running dangerously low. You really don't want to clip those too hard because they will send you spinning around.
Getting very physical. The second bump by J.R. Shepherd in this battle for the race lead that time by. Thought about giving a third bump possibly within a car length. And at this point, do you expect the bumpers to become a major factor here for this battle for the lead, or do you just see Shepherd being Shepherd, where he be a bit more patient here and waits for that slip up?
Gosh, I don't know. 10 laps ago, I wouldn't have told you that he would have had 2 bumps already on the 99. So maybe, obviously, these guys know more about competitively racing at Oxford than I do, but maybe J.R. Shepherd knows where you need to be is out front, maybe to help conserve those tires. You don't want to be stuck in P2 for very long. Still using that curbing at the end of the corner. I think this is strategy here, Justin. I think that the 98 is actually using the curbing on exit to help turn the car as he accelerates, and that takes a little bit of the pressure off the right front. So this might actually be trying to save a little bit of the tires here by using this curbing.
An interesting strategy if it is indeed the case. He is taking a line that is lower than low as well.
Ooh, issues for Donnie Moore. They're going 3 wide into a corner. That's not going to work. Harden sideways.
And a bit of contact as Donnie Moore clears on by. Harden gets spun to the inside of the racetrack.
That's no caution. That's the track.
Yeah, and that he's now off the track indeed with the reset. So Donnie Moore now up to 10th position after that contact. Harden now your second driver out of the race as a result of that incident.
That's tough. One of the many drivers that we've talked about today having to go through the pack multiple times, and that will end his day. Back up here now to Austin Shane and Adam Shane, excuse me. This is the battle for the 6th position here. A pair of guys who we talked about earlier have had their fair share of frowny faces, like the rear bumper of Adam Shane looks like currently.
Wait, how do you see a frowny face from the back bumper?
It's definitely
I mean, the back bumper does look like it can express sadness, but I don't see the actual... Okay, now I see it. The Chevy logo is the mouth.
And you know what? If you take the brake lights, they're almost kind of angry too. It's just kind of frustrated. It's just that 65 just has frustration, and he's only 3/4 through the race.
Under 30 to go. As for the race lead, Shepherd to the inside and James Lowe takes it away from the 99.
Happy face 98. Take a look back here at how it happened, because it was just, J.R. Shepherd, and we talked about, he just flips the switch. Again, using that curbing, I think, to just be a little bit lower. In that time, James Lowe, I don't want to say that he's been blocking off the corners, but he's been trying to pinch that 98 so he can't make the move. In that time, too much momentum from the 98 to stall. And now the cat becomes the mouse.
Always love those games of cat and mouse when it comes to racing. But with the 25 laps to go, can Lowe get back there is the main question mark. The problem has been, and I've been noticing this, is Lowe's been about half a lane up compared to Shepherd, and it's been slipping and sliding a bit more compared to the 98 now, especially when he was still even in the race lead. They also have lap traffic they're going to potentially have to face, who are all battling for position.
And this is where you would think that with J.R. Shepherd running that lower line that he would actually be having more tire wear on his right front, but it just simply looks like that's not the case. If J.R. Shepherd knows something that I don't, it wouldn't be the first time, it won't be the last time. So, yeah, this is a fixed setup series, a reminder there. So these guys are running, even if it's just half a car width different, it makes a difference on both the tire wear and driver style. We've seen how these cars basically have 90-degree steering input, so I don't know here. This is very intriguing, and something that, as we haven't seen a lot of competitive races here as of recent, like I said, watching these cars evolve has been interesting tonight.
The battle starting to shape up, by the way, for 5th position. It's Ruben Altes who leads this train. Shane's still in 6th position. Justin Morton's trying to find a way around him. Austin Belke has been quietly holding on to the inversion spot in his recovery drive with the 24.
Good look here, another recovery drive, but right now all the recovery drives are outside the top 5, and all 3 of them want to move that white number 11 of Ruben Altes out of the way, maybe give him a little bit of a tire rub on the car, it's too pretty compared to the 3 cars behind him. So might need to rough that car up a little bit, make it look like a fellow modified on track.
I don't think the speed's going to be in there if you turn these Grand National cars into modifieds tonight, though.
Maybe not tonight, although you don't necessarily need downforce. You're not reaching over 100 miles per hour.
Good point. Keep in mind that Todd Liston is slowly creeping into this fight. He's just about a couple seconds back, and he is a little bit quicker, a couple 100ths a lap in these cars when he's not losing the back tires.
Yeah, look at that wheel input, and you know when the rear tires are starting to slide out, that's more than 90-degree input. That's like about 100-degree input out of Todd Liston there, and really starting to use those tires up, use that wheel. You can see kind of those slight jerks into the control there, and that is just because, like you said, Justin, with the rear tires kicking out, you need to get that car back straight, and so sometimes that's when you'll see the driver jerk the car. They're just trying to get that thing back straight, if you will, in the middle of a corner.
He's seen in front of him Austin Belke getting by Justin Morton, by the way. That's for 7th position. Austin Belke looking for a solid points night after that podium to start off the season Grand National Series at Nashville, as talked about. Give credit to Ruben Altis, would be one of his best finishes in the past couple seasons here if he can hold on to the top 5.
Yeah, P5 would be great for that white number 11 of Ruben Altis. We've seen him have the speed, especially at the beginning of races, just hasn't been able to hold on, and he's going to have to hold on here for a number of laps because that 65 of Adam Shane has been on his rear bumper for all of these laps, and I think has a little bit more corner exit speed, just has to put it all together.
How difficult is it overall, in your opinion, to put that all together, though, with this type of racetrack, even with the rhythm and momentum you pick up, to try and utilize that momentum to be able to put it all into a position battle?
And there's no brakes, because look at Adam Shane now. He's under attack from Austin Belke, who slaps the inside curbing. While you're trying to set up the 11 of Altis, you still have 2 cars who are hounding your rear bumper at the exact same time. You can't really take a breath at a track like this while you're trying to work both the rear window and the front windshield. Sorry, I'm trying to watch the 65. It's kind of wild. But yeah, it's difficult, and you can see how sideways they're getting. This is lap number 90 on these tires, and getting that drive off with the rear tires on exit display in the race, you have to make sure you find that edge and don't cross it too much and let them slide. Oh, and there's a bit of a slide there.
Bit of contact and a bit of a checkup. Shane hit by Belke. There was a bit of a stack up at the 11 off the corner. Please stay green as Shane visits the pit wall. By the way, your race leaders, under 10 laps to go. Already coming up to 7, they have reached Joe Sagawa, Kurt Smith, and Donnie Moore.
This might be an intriguing final 8 laps, 3-lap cars to get by. And of course, Donnie Moore has already won twice today, and Joe Sagawa had all those laps led and has slid back after getting absolutely railroaded on the inside. He'll get out of the way. But remember, these guys are fighting for positions and a point for this series season. So you don't necessarily want to give it up, but these leaders are in a tight battle coming to 5 to go.
Jared Shepard able to pass by Kurt Smith. That puts Kurt Smith 1 lap down in 10th position. Bit of contact there now, up in front now, with Moore not willing to give up the lap point yet. Now he does. Donnie Moore gonna sacrifice the lap. He gives space to the race leader, coming to 4 laps to go in what has been a blistering pace from Shepard and Lowe.
And again, you save tires for a specific reason, to have them for later in the race. So whatever tire that the 99 has left, he has to use it right here. That 98 still looks mighty fast, pulling the 99 a little bit down the back straightaway. If Lowe has anything left for Shepard, it has to come out now.
Can he get there is the big question. They've been trading lap times for the past 25 laps, but Lowe would have to close up 3/10. It's that back bumper of the 98, 2 laps to go. Only 1 more lap car ahead, that's Todd Liston.
Liston looks like he's already planning on staying out of the way, which is scary down the straightaways with that inverted banking. Coming to the white flag here, Justin. Can the 98 hold off James Lowe a little bit longer?
A bit closer now for Lowe as the white flag is out. Final lap. Shepard looking to hold on for the final corner. Lowe tries to send it a little hard. Shepard able to hold on. The different path motorsports machine takes the checkered flag. He wins it in Oxford Plains. James Lowe in second. Third spot goes to Brian Dean as they spin at the end of the start and finish line in front straightaway in the battle for the first cars one lap down.
And that battle as well was the spot behind the invert position for the provisional pole next week. So there was quite a bit at stake there coming to the line, although they weren't going to catch Todd Liston in time. But how about the patience out of the 98? I know he did use that chrome horn a little bit, but right place, right time, and the 99 just can never get back in touch.
Celebration time for J.R. Shepard as he burns it down in J.R. Shepard tradition in turns 1 and 2. Post-race coverage is coming up here on the Global SimRacing Channel. You're watching the Bootleg Racing League's Grand National Series from Oxford Plains Speedway. Welcome back to the virtual Oxford Plains Speedway for post-race coverage on the Global SimRacing Channel of Bootleg Racing League action for the Grand National Series. And what was a thrilling race, but a dominating one for two drivers, J.R. Shepard and James Lowe. It's Shepard who wins the battle for the checkered flag over James Lowe today. Brian Dean finishes in third. Keep in mind, Shepard and Dean tied for the Hard Charger Award with 10 positions gained apiece. Jason Menda finished in fourth, with Justin Morton in fifth, Ruben Altis, Austin Belkey, and Todd Liston rounded out the inversion spots with Donnie Moore and Kurt Smith rounding out the top 10.
Joe Segala led the beginning part of this race. Unfortunately, has to settle for 11th. Big frowning face on the rear bumper of the 65. Adam Shane, multiple trips through the field, but has to settle for 12th. Jeffrey Harden, Lowell Jewell rounding out your 14-car field at Oxford Plains Speedway.
In the end, though, it's J.R. Shepard who picks up another checkered flag. And keep in mind, he was one of the drivers just a couple nights ago looking to try and perform well in what was the Road to Pro Series. Tonight, though, able to come away with a strong checkered flag here in Oxford Plains. How are you feeling about this run tonight here in the BRL?
Better than the Road to Pro race. That did not go well. But yeah, this is an extremely tough track, and it's mentally draining because the fast line is right next to that curb, and you can touch the curb with your sidewall and kind of make some time, but if you get your tire on top of it, you're in trouble. So it's, again, just really mentally draining and a really tough race.
How difficult was it to try and pass James Lowe to get this job done tonight? Because it seemed like, for the most part, drivers were either trying to lick the stamp to send it to the inside, or in the case of James Lowe, he made the one outside pass of the race.
Yeah, I was extremely confused on how the outside line worked so well on the restart, because there's absolutely no grip going into turn one on the outside. But he made it work and got the lead. And I was trying to be patient for half of the race. And this track's really about track position, trying to be on that inside line in case a caution comes out. And it worked out for us. And then trying to pass him there at the end, I was trying to be patient and not be too aggressive, because it's very easy to do here. But finally found an opening.
Indeed you did. But next race goes to North Wilkesboro. It's the Moonshine Challenge once again for the third running this year. Your thoughts for North Wilkesboro?
I usually like North Wilkesboro. It's a track that has a lot of character, and that makes it a lot of fun to race on. It gives you a lot of options, and it's also one of those tracks you got to be pretty patient with and try to save your rear tires. So we'll just see how it goes early, try to get some track position, and race from there.
Anyone you want to thank for the victory tonight?
Just thanks to the Bootleg Racing League and Low Jewel and everything he does for this. It's a great league. I'm a little disappointed that we didn't have that many cars tonight, but it kind of drops off in the summer. But if anybody's looking for a league to run in, this is a great one to come to. And thanks to my team, Different Path Motorsports, and everything that you guys do at GSRC.
Congratulations on an air victory tonight, JR.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
J.R. Shepard coming away with first, and by the way, was actually racing against J.R. Shepard in Thursday, hence the little reference there. It was an adventure, let's put it that way. For James Lowe, he made some adventurous moves. He's with Devin Henry.
Yeah, speaking of adventurous moves, I think everyone, including J.R. Shepard, wants to know, how in the world did you make that pass on the outside on a restart?
Well, a little bit of hope and a prayer, when you're starting on the outside there, if it doesn't work, it's bad trouble brewing and you're going to get freight trained. And so that was my only option, was to just send it in there and hope it stuck. And luckily it did.
And take me through that battle between you and J.R. Shepard. You got the chrome horn a couple of times, just couldn't quite get back to him. Take me through that battle and what else you needed to try to get back around him here before the checkered flag.
Well, the chrome horn was, that's short track racing, but the thing that was concerning me was there was a couple times he blinked and he was inside my car. So I didn't want any, us to wreck each other out and, have an issue there. So I just kind of gave up on it and rode behind him. And then even when he was in front of me, he blinked one time and he was in my car again. So I was just kind of, trying to play the, hope the old netcode gods didn't get us.
Well, nonetheless, top two finishes, if you will, to begin the season. A good beginning. Who do you have to thank for being on the podium again once more tonight?
Yeah, just like to thank my team, Balls Out Racing, and Cottonwood Liquors for being on board. You guys for broadcasting, man, y'all do a great job. And Lowell for putting all this on. I know it's got to be a headache for him to do all this, but I appreciate him doing it, and I know we all do. It's a great league to run in. And, on to North Wilkesboro.
A fun one here at Oxford. We will see you next week at North Wilkesboro. Congrats on the second place finish, James.
Appreciate it.
And finally, we will catch up with your third place finisher. Brian Dean is with Justin Prince.
And you're able to break away from the rest of the pack that was starting to form up. Talk us through your race where you gained 10 positions, tied for the most positions gained with Shepard.
Yeah, it's all about just waiting for the opportunity or the mistake, and I was pretty lucky. I got some inside starting positions, and it was kind of a sharp move on getting around Joe Segala there for third, but there's not too many ways of passing around here and making them legitimately. You just got to wait for the opportunity.
It seemed like that all night long tonight. How difficult was it, though, as well, to try and manage the tires? Because it seemed for most drivers, a couple were slipping and sliding on the rear in practice, for example. How difficult was it to try and manage the tires throughout this race to make sure you had the opportunities to go for the lunge or go for an opportunity if it opened up?
With my positions and restarts and stuff, I got kind of lucky. I wasn't pushing at all. I don't think I had the throttle all the way down to the floor all night. So I was just trying to keep it straight. Since I hadn't been here in a while, I was a little rusty. So I think the C's were parting for me and allowed me to get third place tonight.
Indeed. Now, tonight, we'll see you go over for next week to North Wilkesboro. Your thoughts on going for a blast in the past once more?
I love that track. This is probably my second best track behind Martinsville, so I'm looking forward to it for sure.
Anyone you want to thank for the run?
Yeah, you guys for the broadcast as always. Lowell, the rest of the crew that I race with. It's a great time on Saturday nights.
Congratulations on the podium finish.
Thank you.
Brian Dean coming home in third after starting in 13th. Like to thank him, James Lowe, and J.R. Shepard for taking the time to speak with us for post-race coverage here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Now, real quickly, Devin, your thoughts on how this race played out, because as drivers talked about, it was difficult to make moves.
Yeah, it's difficult to run around the inside and make those moves. It's so technical, too, when it comes to the throttle control and how much steering input you go into it. And that will just move right into next week in North Wilkesboro, another difficult technical track. You got the elevation changes down the straightaways. It's going to be another one where drivers are going to have their hands full in these Grand National cars.
It's going to be interesting how things play out, to say the very least, when we throw things back to 1987 and North Wilkesboro. But I'd like to thank you for tuning in for tonight's exciting action here from Oxford Plains. I'd also like to thank the Bootleg Racing League, for organizing this exciting series. We'd also like to thank the companies who provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed on screen. Additional thanks to Jude Law, who provides her wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more for great work. Thanks to the team tonight in Devin and Sean. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. If you'd like to support the channel, you can check out our merchandise for sale at gsrc.stormvy.com. Or you can check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget to head over to YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button, as well as the notification bell, so you don't miss a moment here on the Global SimRacing Channel. As talked about, the next race, we'll see the series head over to North Wilkesboro. That'll be on April the 17th for that racing action. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on screen, so be sure to check those out and mark them down your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.